Video clips on blindness tips, a series of video demonstrations for daily living skills for the blind and visually impaired, presented in conjunction with the Washington State School for the Blind. The following clip features Becky Sherman of the Department of Services for the Blind. Becky teaches daily living skills to blind and visually impaired children and adults. This tip explains how to safely use a stovetop.
When you first teach someone, start with a stove, you want to always make sure it's cool so that there's no fear of heat. When children are small, they're not afraid of anything, so they're likely to touch anything. So make sure that everything in the area is safe. And show them how wide the stove is and how deep, so you get a feel for everything that's here. There's knobs on the right-hand side of this stove. There's a big burner, a little burner, and another little burner, and a big burner. And that's important to know. The position of them and also the sizes, because you want to make your pans match the size of the burners, so you maximize heat, minimize burn opportunities. So first of all, once you get a good picture of the stove and how it is, then you want to talk about the knobs. You can braille them if you like. This particular stove has front right burner for the first knob, and around this knob it has a dot, and it's lined up with the off on the stove. As all stoves, or most stoves that I know of, you cannot turn it on until you push down and turn. When you turn this right hand burner knob on that says right hand, it's on, and the element begins to get hot. And high usually locks into place. As you turn your knob clockwise, you go to medium, high, and then medium. Medium is always 180 degrees from off. The rest of these knobs then follow suit, and you can hold your hand over it to feel the heat. Once that people are comfortable with that, you set your pans on the burner, which has the element, that's the part that gets hot on the electric stove, and this element is bigger than the bottom of this pan. So it would be too big, so you want to try the smaller burner. Now the pan may stick over just a little bit, but it fits better. You're less likely to get burned, and you have better control of the heat. The way I center a burner is when it's cold, center the pan on the burner, is I set it here and I run my hands around the ring here to make sure there's an equal distance all the way around. If it's off base, then it can tip, and so you'll spill. Also, you can burn your hand easy. So you want to make sure that you keep it centered. Once it's hot, you can run your hand around above the pan and feel the heat. And if there's excess heat on this side, feels hotter than on this side, you know that you need to move your pan over. Another way people will like to do, if they're kind of afraid of the heat or aren't comfortable with the heat yet, they can use a wooden spoon to check the edges and see if the edge matches all the way around the burner, the pan and the burner set on there. The other thing about cooking is a lot of listening. And you can hear water boil, it bubbles, and especially if you put a lid on it, the lid will bounce. And when that happens, then you know it's time to put your noodles in or to turn the temperature down so that it won't boil over. When you're frying something, if it's a pancake or a grilled cheese sandwich, something like that, you can slide the piece of bread or the pancake, and if it slides on the skillet, then you can flip it over. And so you use those, and then you can tell by the smell. So you use all of your senses, everything that you can, and your knowledge to tell you when it's time to turn your food over. If you have your skillet too high and you get the outside of the food done and you don't get the inside done, you can tell that usually by sticking a fork in it, and you'll know next time that you better turn the temperature down and cook it a little slower.
Gas ranges.
Most stoves are generally set up the same. I did find that a gas stove often has the back burners first and the front burners second. So you might want to, you have to double check that before you start. But there's a difference, a little bit of difference in cooking also. When you first start it, they start on high. And you'll hear a click, 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 and a hissing noise. And the hissing noise, the clicking stops when the hissing noise starts, and that means that flame is on high. It is a flame. It is not just heat like your electric stove. So you want to make sure to keep things away from it and keep your arms, and if you're going to see if it's hot, you want to start high if you put your hand over the burner. When you turn your burner down, generally once you get to medium, you quit hearing the hissing sound. And so that kind of gives you an idea if you don't have your stove marked, or if you've used it for a long time and you don't need to look at the braille, you just kind of want to guess at it, you can tell that it's now on medium because you don't hear that gas sound again. If you turn the burner on and it just keeps clicking and clicking and no gas, and you smell gas, then you know that something's wrong with the pilot light and it isn't starting, and you need to immediately turn it off. When you are cooking, when you have your pan on the stove, the flame hits the bottom of the pan and it radiates out. So if you have your temperature high and the flame, we talked about size of pan and size of burner, you have to think about size of pan and size of flame. Now, obviously, you're not going to stick your finger down there to see where the flame is, so you have to, you can check for temperature heat, and you want mostly the pan to be hot and very little heat coming around the edges. And so that's how you can check to see if you have it. Plus, once your food gets cooking, again, you can hear if it's cooking fast or slow, and you make your adjustments accordingly.
Timers.
A lot of times, stoves will have timers on them, and if you can't read a timer like I can't, then you need to have one that you can set. I never worry about a timer on the stove. This one has braille so that you can set the timer. If it's an hour timer, it has 3 dots at the top. It has 1 dot for 2.5 minutes, 2 dots for 5 minutes, 1 dot for 7.5, 2 dots for 10. So that's kind of how it goes all the way around. And then they have several kinds. This one is a print one. This one is a pampered chef, which maybe you can use if you have some vision, but it doesn't have speech. This one has a large print display. Okay. So for people with low vision, they do also make talking timers. So there's a wide variety out there. Go to your local, your catalogs or your local little store and pick out the one that works best for you.
More video clips for blindness tips are available from the Washington State School for the Blind at wssb.wa.gov.